The official INDYCAR app, powered by NTT data, puts the pulse-pounding action of INDYCAR right at your fingertips. Never miss a lap with the latest news, highlights, and live race coverage. Track every move with real-time leaderboards, interactive maps, onboard cameras, and driver radio. Your all-access pass to every race, every moment, every day. Download the official INDYCAR app now.
Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. Here is your starting grid.
Robert Schwartzman, born in Israel, Tel Aviv.
Rinus VK, Hoofddorp, the Netherlands.
I'm Jacob Abel from Louisville, Kentucky.
I'm Callum Milo. I'm from Cambridge in the UK.
Devlin DiFrancesco, Toronto, Ontario.
Will Power, Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia.
Scott McLaughlin, Christchurch, New Zealand.
Graham Rahal, Columbus, Ohio.
Stingray Rob, Pitt, Idaho.
Josef Newgarden, Nashville, Tennessee.
Santino Ferrucci, Woodbury, Connecticut.
Felix Rosenquist, Värnamo, Sweden.
Pato Award, Monterrey, Mexico.
I'm David Malukas, grown up in Chicago, Illinois.
Connor Daly from Noblesville, Indiana.
Alexander Rossi, Nevada City, California.
Marcus Eriksson, Kumla, Sweden.
Christian Rasmussen, I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark.
I'm Scott Dixon, driver the number 9 PNC Bank Honda from Auckland, New Zealand.
Marcus Armstrong, Christchurch, New Zealand.
I'm Kyle Kirkwood from Jupiter, Florida.
Louis Foster, Odium, England.
I'm Colton Herta from Valencia, California.
Nolan Siegel, Palo Alto, California.
Hi, I'm Kevin Simpson from the Cayman Islands.
I'm Christian Lundgaard from Vejle, Denmark.
Hello, I'm Alex Palou. I'm from Barcelona, Spain.
That is your Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio starting grid. Time to go down to pit lane for the command.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome Ohio native, co-owner of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing and 3-time INDYCAR Series champion, Bobby Rahal.
Drivers, start your engines.
As the cars are fired up, why don't we take a little tour around this 2.25-mile race course. Mid-Ohio is something special, Townsend. Something special, James.
Yeah, might not be a more busy 2.2 miles on the planet than Mid-Ohio. You really never get a break at this place as we take a look at the Honda Track preview. As James, you know, it starts in turn 1 with great authority. You've got to have great pace through here. Minimum speed 140 miles an hour. Max speed 159 at the exit, and then you brake heavy uphill into the keyhole. Minimum speed 62 miles an hour. Great passing opportunity comes as they go to turn 4.
Yeah, this is the straight, but you see turn 3, there's not a lot of chance to rest. Down on the brakes into that newly paved turn 4, 181 miles an hour. This 4, 5, 6 section, all about rhythm, all about car placement. No chance for the drivers to rest, punishing on the tires as well. Down through turn 9, the fast, flat turn 10, and then turn 11, T-Bell, one of the trickiest ones on the track.
Yeah, it really is, because you're downhill into turn 12. Very little runoff, and then you've got to get things gathered up to fire up the front straight there to finish the lap.
Let's take a little look at the weather for today. It has been hot all the way through this weekend. Track temp almost up at 120 degrees. But how will the tires hang on for this race? What strategies will the teams employ? For more on the tire compounds for today's race, let's go down to Kevin to talk all about the Tire Talk, sponsored by Firestone.
So we'll not only do the drivers have to deal with this heat, but the teams have to be able to manage the firestones. And logic would say the softer, the red sidewall compound, is going to wear more quickly when it's brutal hot like this. But several engineers have told me they actually seem to perform a little bit better in these heated conditions, certainly no worse. So as far as strategy today, when you look at who has new of the softs up front, Kyle Kirkwood is one among those. And strategy is going to be dictated first for a two-stopper. You're going to need some caution to make that happen. So it's mostly going to be a three-stop strategy, and when you pit is going to be dictated on trying to find clean track and also your tire of choice. To Jack Harvey.
Just following on that conversation of temperature, it is so hot down in pit lane. I'm already sweating. Hopefully you guys don't notice. The drivers were wearing a cool suit. It gets a ventilation line where they run water through it. This then actually plugs into the car. It goes over their first layer of Nomex. You throw your suit over the top of it, and then hopefully it keeps you cool, which today is going to be a premium. Georgia.
We've talked tires, we've talked extreme temperatures, but someone who doesn't seem to be fazed by it at all is Santino Ferrucci. In the last 4 races, he has not started inside the top 15, but he's finished inside the top 5 all of those races. Today, he starts 17th, so the sky is the limit for this team. They find speed every race. He works his way through the field, so we'll see what he's going to do from 17th. That's Santino Ferrucci and the AJ Foyt Racing team. Guys?
58 positions made up over the last 4 races for Santino Ferrucci. That is almost twice the number of the next closest driver there. The 2025 Honda Civic Type R leading the field around as they get their tires warmed up. Guys, I cannot wait for this race. This track is so challenging. It is so technical and unrelenting.
Yeah, it starts really in the first corner, which will be turn 4 for the start. They won't finish there, but it's that big bump on that newly profiled corner like we've talked about. And the 2 young drivers of Siegel and Kiffin Simpson looking for their best result of their career. They're starting the best they ever have. How do they play the unpredictability? Nobody's ever raced IndyCars here on that bump yet.
And one of the things we haven't really talked about a lot this weekend, guys, when it comes to weather is the wind. When we were standing outside pre-race throwing the football around, it wasn't going straight. The wind has really picked up, and it's going to be a tailwind down that back straight into turn 4, which could make that even more of a challenge, especially on the start for these drivers.
It wasn't flying straight, more to do with my right arm, I think, than anything else. Some drivers really out of position today. We look at the likes of Will Power in 22nd, Scott McLaughlin down in 21st. We've heard about Santino Ferrucci in 17th. But look also for Felix Rosenquist in 15th. Has been fast all the way through this weekend. And also for Marcus Ericsson in that Fox Honda starting down there in 10th place. Now let's take a look at the race strategy sponsored by Verizon.
Look, more racing is better. We got 10 laps added to it this year. So that means full push, 3 stops, everyone can go for it. Stay in the seat. It's a physical race. If drivers start getting tired late in this race, that could really hold them back. So you got to make sure that, you know, Colin Herta said it after qualifying. If you're worried about your physicality now, you're already too late.
Yeah, the other one is aggressive pit strategies. If you are, say, 14th on back, maybe somebody like Pato Award, and you don't get a great start, think about aggressive pitting. Lap 6, lap 7, Kevin Lee documented that 3-stop strategy. You can duck in, switch tires, and be good to go with 2 more stops to the end.
Last year, 28 laps was the maximum that anybody was able to run on a fuel stint. So when we take that into consideration, we add it all up for the 90 laps. 6 is the earliest you can come in to make that 3-stop strategy work. Will anybody attempt the 2? Time will tell. That first pit window is absolutely huge. 6 to 26 is that window. We sit on board with Nolan Siegel, starting on the 2nd row of the grid for the very first time in his career. A brilliant qualifying run from him and from Kiffin Simpson. Career highs for them both.
Colin Herta, you saw there with those primary tires. That's the harder tire. He's the first of the runners on that. That's going to be an interesting thing to keep a track of as we play out here. But first laps, guys, this is a tough track to pass on. We know starts and restarts are the best opportunity to make up some of those spots. So look at the front, but also look for the guys like Santino trying to make big moves early.
Already lining up 2 by 2, we ride on board. Mission Foods on board of Christian Lundgaard on the right-hand side of your screen for McLaren. On the left-hand side, Alex Palou starting from the pole position for the 3rd time this year. Then the youngsters on the 2nd row. Louis Foster, another brilliant qualifying performance from him in 6th. Colton Herta in 5th. and Palou waits to hit the gas and take this field to green as we run down through turn 3, and we do go green now. Alex Palou leads the way, and Kiffin Simpson already tucked up on the rear wing, but look at Lundgaard having a look on Palou, but Palou holds the lead, and we've got a crash at the back. Graham Rahal involved, Josef Newgarden involved, Will Power as well. Disaster once again for Penske. And Newgarden is out immediately, and that's a Prema in trouble as well. That looks like Callum Ilott, but Palou holding the lead of this race, and another nightmare for Penske and for Josef Newgarden.
You said it, you saw Power involved, obviously Newgarden as well. Hometown hero Graham Rahal begging for the safety team to come and fire up that Honda engine.
With just a 2.2-mile lap, Graham does not want to go a lap down as we look to the very back of the field in that light white and blue car of Josef Newgarden, and he just spun. And I think it was well before the bump. It was a very bizarre spin. This is on board with Graham Rahal. We'll get a good view of Newgarden, who's just in front to the right there. Oh, he just locked up.
The car just snapped on him. That's bizarre though, T-Bell. I mean, you know, when you get the rear locking in these race cars, you still go straight, but that you're kind of chasing the tail. This thing hooked all the way driver's left. So bizarre. Kevin.
You guys have seen what Josef Newgarden felt very calmly. Shortly after he came to a stop, he said, the rears just locked. Very weird, is what Newgarden said.
I'm with him. That was a very weird looking thing, and yeah, the problem's just continuing for Team Penske.
So Josef Newgarden looks like he's out. Graham Rahal being dragged back onto the track. We're under caution here in mid-Ohio. Welcome back to the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, live on Fox. Those are the images of Josef Newgarden's bent and battered Penske being taken away from the scene of the accident at turn 3. Rears locking, Josef out of the race. The first time in his career that he's had 3 straight finishes of 25th or worse.
Third straight DNF. I mean, that's wild. Coming into this race, he had 5 DNFs in the last 12 months. You have to go back 5 years combined to get his last 5 DNFs before that.
So riding on board with Josef Newgarden, we've heard the explanation of it. Now we get to ride on board and actually feel it.
I mean, audibly, it just sounds like Newgarden locked up the rear axle. You spend all weekend all the way to the left for the braking zone. You really don't have much sense of how much grip is available, but this would be Newgarden in complete shock that the rear's locked up that easily and that early in the brake zone.
The other thing is they drove through some oil dry, some kitty litter right before that brake zone. I wonder if that maybe just took a little bit of grip out of the tires. It's hard to know.
We've had some pit stops taking place under caution. Kevin, what can you tell us?
Will Power has already made 2 stops. He came in immediately and changed to one of his 3 sets of sauce. All the Penskes have that or had that. So does Callum Ilott, who also stopped. And they also spotted some rear side wing damage. The underwing is damaged for Will Power as we see Graham Rahal in and back out after the off.
I find that pretty interesting because Graham Rahal started on the blacks and Will Power started on the blacks. The tire compound change tells me that they think different of the compound that you're going to want for the race as we take a look at Will Power's replay from the start. There's that oil dry, James, you talked about. And a little side-to-side contact, I think, with his teammate Scott McLaughlin.
It was, yeah.
Devlin DiFrancesco caught up in it, Callum Ilott as well. Devlin's changed his front wing back out on track and has also come in to take on some Shell 100% renewable fuel.
So you talked to Graham Rahal's teammate Louis Foster before the race. He thought it was going to be a black race. I talked to Scott McLaughlin, Team Penske driver. He said it's going to be a red race. Power thinks it's going to be a red race. Rahal thinks it's going to be a black race. This is going to play out really well if there's that much indecision at the start.
I think a lot of it comes down to how your car's handling and which tire your car prefers. You know, it's all about how much degradation, how much lap time loss you have on those soft tires. We know that they're going to be quicker over a lap. About 0.8 of a second quicker is what the field has sort of been experiencing than the hard tire. But it's about a lap 20 crossover.
Well, and we're almost on lap 6, which was when the pit window was due to open up. But of course, they're saving fuel right now by being under caution, as we have been pretty much since the first corner of this race. You need about 12 laps of caution in order to turn this into a two-stopper.
And this extra caution lap here, I would have thought we would have been back to green right now. This helps out people like Will Power that have just made that stop right now. And it looks like pace car lights are out. So a lot to shake out here strategy-wise.
Start was down into turn 4. Restarts are into turn 1 on the front straight. So the Honda Civic Type R pace car is pulled away. Palou now leads the field.
And Simpson ahead of Lundgaard. So it's Palou, Simpson, Lundgaard, Siegel, Herter, Foster, your top 6 as the championship leader slows the field down. Will snake through 10 and 11 into the right-hander at 12, flick back through 13 and lead at Mid-Ohio. Back to green. An aggressive start from Lundgaard on the power early, jumping down there through the final corner, wanting to have a look and get up and past Kiffin Simpson at the earliest possible opportunity. Snaking through turn 1, and now we are racing for real as Lundgaard has a little look and Simpson goes to defend. Lundgaard, though, around the outside of Kiffin Simpson at 2, but Simpson again closes the door. Lundgaard now on board with him on the run down through 3 into 4. The pace advantage of the McLaren clear as it stands. Who will be later on the brakes? Lundgaard trying to go around the outside of Kiffin Simpson, and Simpson again defends beautifully. Great racing, but Lundgaard is through.
That was fun to see because that turn 4, again, newly profiled, it's flatter, doesn't have the banking of old. It's the first time we've seen 2 wide under race conditions, and Lundgaard gets it done.
I was just going to say that gave me so much encouragement that we're going to see a lot of action down there. You can still run side by side, but Lundgaard from his seat, it was so crucial to get around Kiffin Simpson there to start putting the charge and pressure on Alex Palou.
Also, really nice job from Kiffin Simpson, leaving some racing room there, not challenging too hard too early. He knows he is in running position right now for the best finish of his IndyCar career, and Nolan Siegel also do a great job to hold on to that 4th place just behind.
Right on board with Christian Lundgaard, Alex Palou almost a second to the good, but Lundgaard just starting to chip away. We ride on board now with his teammate Nolan Siegel, courtesy of NTT Data. Keep your eyes though on the timing pylon, and Kyle Kirkwood, who has lost 2 places from his starting spot of 7th, now sits 9th. Josef Newgarden though is standing by with Georgia.
Unusual situation for Josef Newgarden. So frankly, what happened?
I'm not sure. I either had just a massive rear lockup and spun, or I got touched. I don't know. I mean, it to me initially it felt like I just locked rears all of a sudden out of nowhere, kind of unexpectedly, or I got touched. So if I didn't get touched, then just a weird freak massive rear lock, which is bizarre, but yeah, tough to not be out there. Hopefully we can fix the car. I don't think there's a lot of damage. I'd like to get back out, but you know, obviously we're sort of out of this thing, so it's a shame having a fast PPG car, support from Team Chevy, and you know, just want to be in the mix.
A string of bad luck, how do you recover going forward?
Oh, you just go to the next one.
Thanks.
We thank Josef Newgarden for stopping to talk despite the disappointment today. As he said, hoping to get back out there and just get a little bit more track time. Graham Rahal off as well. But there are your leaders. There is Alex Palou, Christian Lundgaard behind Kyle Kirkwood, still trying to find a way past Scott Dixon as he drops down, and he knows that he has to start making up these positions as Rossi defends from David Malukas, who goes around the outside and tries to put the pass on, and that's actually a really nice move from David Malukas.
And that's a great visual of the soft tire versus the hard tire. Malukas on the soft, Rossi on the hard. That extra grip from that red sidewall at Firestone, just carrying it all the way around, and now Rasmussen defending against Ferrucci.
Ferrucci, one of the big movers over the last few races, over and onto the grass.
Felix looking outside. Outside. Clear.
And that is Rosenqvist trying to get through on Ferrucci as well. Ferrucci won't take kindly to being put over onto the grass. And he's lost 1 place from his starting position. Back then with the battle, that's Scott McLaughlin in the black and red car, so reminiscent of Will Power's old liveries in that Penske. We ride on board with him now, courtesy of Odyssey Battery. McLaughlin, who's down in P18.
Turn 1 here, so hard to follow because it's so fast. When you're that close to the car in front, you lose a bunch of downforce as more action down into turn 2. Rossi on the defense again.
Yeah, Rossi still defending against cars that appear to have better grip, but in this case with Pato O'Ward, I think he's on the harder black tire right now. He is indeed. So that's just straight up a better race car, better driver at this point as Rossi defends, shoots it well up the inside and hangs on to the spot for now.
And O'Ward massively disappointed with his qualifying run yesterday. Starts this race from the 14th spot. Of course, both of his teammates up on the front 2 rows of the grid. We know that McLaren has pace, and as you guys were saying, on the same tires as Alexander Rossi, that McLaren looks like it's got some purpose.
So we talked already about how the soft tire has more grip. So then the question is, well, why would you want to run the black more than the minimum requirement? The question is, how long does the grip last with the soft tire? How far can they go? Can they make it the full distance before their lap time starts to really fall apart? We won't know for about another 10 laps, but that's called the crossover point, and that's what every driver and strategist is going to be studying to try to determine, how do I want to finish out this race? What's the preferred compound?
And this is an interesting battle we were watching there with Pato O'Ward and Alex Rossi. They're former teammates. They know each other really well. They're good friends, and sometimes those battles can end interestingly because you know a little bit more. You know what makes that other driver tick, and that can be a huge advantage when you're in one of those wheel-to-wheel situations.
Replay here then on board with Santino Ferrucci. Just getting edged over onto the grass. Started 17th, sits 16th as it stands. Rasmussen ahead of him, then O'Ward and Alexander Rossi. A nice little train starting to form here of guys who can get their elbows out and go racing. But Rosenqvist getting into the mix as well and will want to get up and past Ferrucci. Rosenqvist sitting 4th in the championship as things stand right now, on a great run and coming off the back of a podium last time out at Road America. So too for Santino Ferrucci, both of them hungry to get back up there.
So just looking at lap times, Alex Palou on the soft tire just did a 107.1. Colton Herta, the first car back on the black tire, just did a 108.0. So just under a second difference between the red and black tire. And these are 2 of the fastest drivers in the field, Herta and Palou, both Honda drivers. So now we'll start to watch that pace develop lap after lap. Remember, guys, track temperature 122 degrees right now. It is scorching out there. That has to matter in terms of tire wear.
Lundgaard is keeping Palou honest though. His last lap also a 107.1. The gap sitting pretty steady as it stands at the moment. 1 second. It's been a couple of tenths below that, about 9 tenths, 8 tenths of a second between the 2 of them. But for now at least, Lundgaard is not letting Alex Palou go.
And look, we know this team is good. We know this car is good. Pato O'Ward won with McLaren here last year, racing this guy, Alex Palou, for the win. So we know they've got a good setup. And the fact that at this stage of the race, Lundgaard is able to follow as closely to Palou as he's being able to tells me that car is pretty strong right now.
Just puts a wheel over onto the grass. One driver we've talked about already today, Will Power. Kevin, what can you tell us about him? I see he's coming down into pit lane right now.
The hits keep on coming for Team Penske. Scott McLaughlin also rolling down pit lane, and Power needs more than Shell fuel because he says, I'm losing power. There's a misfire. He just got passed by DeFrancesco, and he lost about 5 seconds on the last lap.
Looks like there was some smoke just pouring out the back of his car.
Fire on the left side.
There you go. A fire on the left side of the car. There was smoke billowing from it as he ran down pit lane. And Penske's miserable season, I mean, just from bad to worse, lap by lap, day by day this season.
Not even a quarter of the way into this race, 2 of 3 Team Penske drivers already out. As you take a look at the left side headers, probably engine oil would be my guess, contributing to the fire there. So something pretty terminal in the powertrain for Will Power.
And while that was all happening, 2 drivers did come into the pit for service. The pit window open now We saw Scott McLaughlin, we saw Pato O'Ward come in, so just kind of note that they've been in for that first service. That kind of starts to open this window for these different strategies to play out.
Alex Palou now starting to stretch away. The lead just over 1.5 seconds between Palou and Lundgaard. Kiffin Simpson still sitting pretty in third place from Siegel, Herta, Foster, your top 6. July 15th, it's the Midsummer Classic as Judge, Shohei, and baseball's biggest stars head to Atlanta for the MLB All-Star Game. It all starts July 15th, only on Fox. And while we were away, Alex Palou has put his foot down and started to run away and high. 2.4 seconds now the advantage over Lundgaard as Ferrucci takes the decision to jump in on lap 16. This a second stop for Devlin DiFrancesco, and the work on the car is slow on the rear left, but he does eventually get away.
You have to run one set of each compound tire in the race, at least 2 laps under green, so everyone's going to run one of each, kind of get a sense of which tire is their preferred one, what's handling well with that particular race car, and I don't think there's going to be a consensus here.
Not yet, and the best read we have, again, is Alex Palou versus Colton Herta. You can see Palou with a 10-second gap, and now David Malukas on those soft tires.
Teammate on teammate, Ferrucci goes to defend. Malukas has to switch out around the outside of him, down into turn 3. Ferrucci getting his elbows out and defending, but Malukas tries around the outside up the top of the hill into 5 and will not let it go. Malukas with his tires up to temperature, and if my eyes don't deceive me, also on the soft rubber compared to Ferrucci on the hard.
You're right.
Right now for Ferrucci, it's such a difficult position for a driver. You've got to be picture perfect. You can't have any lockup. You can't miss an apex. You can't give Malukas any sort of window or opportunity to try to make that pass happen, because with that grip advantage with the soft tires, he is going to absolutely pounce if you make any kind of mistake.
Just watching those lap times between Palou and Herta. Palou's last lap, a 107.6. Colton Herta, a 107.8. Remember, just 4 or 5 laps ago, it was about a second was the gap. We've run 17 laps. About 4 of those have been under caution. So we're at the crossover point, I believe, in the next 2 or 3 laps, where all of a sudden Palou's really going to be struggling to hang on to those soft red tires, and you can see it on the front tires right here. Look at how aggressive the lines are across the front of the tires. That's the feathering of the rubber. It really helps you understand how much abuse they're suffering right now.
You're absolutely right, Townsend. Really shows the wear on those front tires and also on the rears as well. As down at the bottom, Marcus Ericsson in the Fox Sports Honda takes on a fresh set, looks like a sticker set of soft tires, a 28 service, and back on the road. Palou leading by 2.5 seconds from Christian Lundgaard. When will he take the decision to jump in? Those lap times starting to drop down as the tires begin to wear, but his lead keeps on increasing, and it's just by those incremental gains, lap by lap, stretching his legs over Lundgaard.
So what's fascinating is these soft tires, they wear, they start to slow down, where the hards, they're actually so consistent that a lot of drivers were finding as you ran a stint and the fuel burned off, the car got lighter, the tires held on so well, your lap times actually improved. And if you look at Colton Herta, a 107.5, that's about a half second faster than he was running a few laps ago. Meanwhile, Palou's running 2 to 3 tenths slower than he was 2 or 3 laps ago.
In fact, as the drivers just crossed the line, this is the first time now that Colton Herta is lapping faster than Alex Palou. So you're absolutely right. As the fuel burns off, Herta's simply going quicker because the tire is staying consistent. Lap 19. So the crossover point right here, right now, this is going to make for a great race.
That consistency also helping Louis Foster, P6 at the moment. The one thing that he has struggled with, well, it hasn't been qualifying. He's been absolutely exceptional. It's in races and trying to maintain the pace on those tires, where he's really, really struggled in 2025, holding the same pace as Colton Herta at the moment, though 107.6 last time round, and just 2 seconds in arrears of the Andretti driver.
So they are about 10 laps before they would pit if they run full stint here. With Colton Herta 10 seconds back, he needs to see more of a tire advantage to declare that he's going to want to run blacks through the rest of the race. I think it's still a red race in terms of the desired compound.
Palou still leads from Lundgaard, but tires are going off. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Alex Palou, still your race leader, 2.3 seconds ahead of Christian Lundgaard, but look at the wear on his front tires.
Yeah, especially that right front looks super chewed up right there, but he's holding on to the pace just as Colton Herta on the harder tires we talked about continues to close about 3 to 4 tenths faster now than Palou. Palou's got to hang on here for another 6 or 7 laps, but James, the question is, what can Palou do about it other than slowing down?
Well, let's take a look at the Dallara cutaway car and show you one of the tools that the drivers have at their disposals. It's the anti-roll bars. We talk about the bars a lot. You have a front and rear anti-roll bar, so thanks to Dallara, we're going to take a look at what that means. You see the 2 levers, right? On the red, that's for the front. Blue on the left, that's for the rear. A latch system. There's 5 or 6 different positions that the driver can select, and what that's doing is as the car rolls left to right, you see that T flexing the roll bar. That's the red bar there, and you can see it's a blade. When it's flat like that, it's pretty soft. As it notches this way, it stiffens quite a bit and reduces the amount of roll.
Same thing's available to the driver at the back of the race car. That T-bar twists, it adjusts that blue blade that you'll see in just a second here. Just like a kitchen knife, if you had it flat and tried to flex it, it's a lot easier than if you stood it up on edge. It's a much stiffer resistance. Same number of adjustments in the cockpit. A softer roll bar, more compliant. Allows the tire to kind of float more and soak up the bumps. If it's stiffer, it makes the handling a little more positive. Allows the car to turn and supports it with a shoulder. So watch for hands as we show you onboards throughout the day, making minor adjustments to front and rear roll bars to try to optimize the balance, which is never constant, Will. It changes every single lap as the tires wear.
Back on board with Christian Lundgaard, whose tires exactly the same age as those of Alex Palou. We have had a stop from the first 6. Louis Foster has jumped in to change off, interestingly enough, the hard tire and onto the soft. There he is, the 21-year-old from Odium in England, the Indy Next champion who took his first pole position in IndyCar last time out at Road America. So impressive, his 1-lap pace. It's been maintaining the tires where he struggled this year. Those hards now in the skip, the soft tire back on. And critically, he's out ahead of Kyle Kirkwood, who was leading those to have stopped. Now Lundgaard takes the opportunity to jump in and change off those soft tires. Down to Kevin Lee on pit lane.
So Christian Lundgaard is coming down this time, so he bails a lap earlier than Alex Palou, who is also talking about what kind of changes he wants. This is the only set of new soft for Lundgaard. He's going to a set of the hard compound this time. He wants no changes, so now we're going to see what he can do if he can get a clean track, and we'll see Palou in shortly.
So Lundgaard serviced and away. He will exit just between Rosenqvist and Rasmussen, just behind Rosenqvist, but well ahead of Louis Foster.
So that starts to tell me now that almost for sure red tire is going to be the preferred one. Palou is hanging onto his pace as Barry Wanzer, his strategist, says go ahead and stay out. The black tire you're going to want to run for the shortest stint possible.
And here's why he's getting the call to stay out. Right now, look in front of Palou. Nothing but clean air. Clean air is king. We saw Lundgaard come out into some traffic on that outlap. That's going to slow him down. So if Palou can run a few more laps before he catches the 83 of Robert Schwartzman in front of him, that's going to help open that gap once they get through the pit cycle.
And critically, where Lundgaard is, he had that 2.5-second deficit to Alex Palou. Palou would come out right in between those 2 ECR cars.
Yeah, you can see right here, that's the gap for Christian Lundgaard at 29 seconds. So we'll have to see how much Palou loses with the pit stop. And James, you said it, this is the traffic that Lundgaard sits in. It doesn't look like the car in front of him is that close, which is Felix Rosenqvist. But even at a second back, the turbulent air is tough to fight through with all these medium and high-speed corners.
So will the undercut be the optimum strategy? When will Palou decide to pull the pin and come in? A 107.8 last time around is still a very competitive lap time for Alex Palou. We'll have to wait and see exactly what the lap time was for Colton Herta.
And that tells the entire field, hey, red tire is what it is. So for Colton Herta, a little bit of a disadvantage. He's had to run that long first stint on the blacks, and he'll be able to finish all reds if he wants. Question right now for Christian Lundgaard is how fast can you go on these black tires? Because Lundgaard's last lap was a 1:29.
That was the pit.
That's the pit out, yeah.
So we'll get it as he just comes through to the end of the lap. Let's see what Lundgaard's first lap is on these hard tires. Palou last time a 1:08. Lundgaard. And look how much he's having to fight the car on those hard tires. It's just not giving him the grip that he wants or that he needs.
Yeah, the rear's just skating all over the place.
So it's similar. It's 108.2 for Lundgaard. So he's only losing a tenth or two a lap to Palou, but critically, he's still losing time to Palou.
And Palou, you can see he's getting closer now to the 83 of Robert Schwartzman. You see that 108, like you said, that he did. That's not as fast as he was going before. Wouldn't surprise me if we see him dive into pit lane this lap.
We're hearing Josef Newgarden managed to jump back into his car. They managed to fix it, send him back out again. Now into the pit comes Alex Palou. Kevin, what tires are waiting for our race leader?
Well, he really only has primaries or used softs remaining, so this is a set of scuffed primaries. Also, by staying out long, if there's a lot of caution, they could maybe think about doing it on one more stop, but they're going fast enough that it's likely 3 stops. Jack.
And Siegel is getting ready for his service, going to flow some Shell fuel into that car, and it has been such an impressive weekend for Nolan. That was a really clean stop. He's heading back out on track.
Yeah, that was a quick stop for Nolan Siegel. Palou back out though, and look to the left of the screen on the top. Through come the ECR cars, and this was always going to be the issue for Palou. He comes out behind one of the ECR cars with Rosenquist having a little look on the inside. Rosenquist right behind him as well, and there in the orange and black, just behind, is Christian Lundgaard. He right on board with Felix Rosenquist. He has great pace, and obviously Palou on the cooler tires. Rosenquist to the outside, down into 3 to take the place back away from Alex Palou.
And this is great for Christian Lundgaard. Having Rosenquist get around Palou, that's going to slow him down a little bit. Christian already with those hot tires, we saw it took him about a lap to really get the grip into it. So right now the difference between the two on the racetrack
push like hell, push like hell. 21 should be pitting now. Push.
Less than a second between these guys. So advantage Lundgaard on that round of pit stops. Remember, it was about 2.5 seconds was Palou's advantage, and now Colton Herta comes in for softs.
Georgia.
Colton Herta the farthest forward in the sequence on those primary tires. They put his only set of brand new red tires on him. One turn in the front wing, and they fill it up with Shell fuel.
Saw how tough it was for Colton to get out of his box there with a car in front of him. Had to have the wheel all the way locked to get around.
But Colton Herta should come out with clean air. No, here comes Nolan Siegel now through turn 1. Colton will really try to defend here if he can, because that will give him clean air to go fast on those sticker soft tires. Really important right here. I don't know if Colton can hold him off.
But what a great job from Andretti, from the crew, and from the strategy to even get him out ahead of Nolan Siegel, who's been sitting ahead of him for the whole of this race so far. But Nolan Siegel's tires up to temperature in the blue and orange McLaren. Again, the run down to 3 has the look, but Herta has it pinned.
That was so important for Colton Herta to not fall behind Nolan Siegel. There's now nobody in front of Colton Herta except Christian Lundgaard, and Colton is on the right tire to go fast in clean air. Huge moment right there.
Jack, what's going on?
Kiffin Simpson has just done his stop. Not the fastest one, but a real fun story here. Ryan Fager, who got hurt in an incident at Barber, is back on the inside wheel. We love to see him, and we've wished him a really speedy recovery. Great to see him back out here.
Now here comes Kiffin Simpson, and there to the left-hand side of the screen are your race leaders. So Kiffin will emerge back in 3rd place with a very first Colton Herta coming after him.
And that's going to be the battle. Colton was able to get around Nolan in that exchange, but what can he do about Kiffin Simpson?
But look at the aggression. Look at the body language from that orange and black McLaren. He's sensing his opportunity is now. He's on those fresh blacks. Palou on the scrubbed blacks as Rasmussen off track. And that looks like something technical, but starting to put Alex Palou under a huge amount of pressure is Christian Lundgaard. Scott Dixon is now the race leader. And if our sources are correct, Scott is going to try and do this race on 2 stops.
He's on pace to do it. Lap 30 is where you need to hit. He has a lot of yellow to help him. He comes to the box, putting those soft, brand new red tires on.
It was 4 laps of caution at the start of this race. If you need 4 laps of caution per stint to get to lap 30, that's gonna be you're really hoping for a very lucky break here for the number 9. But man, Dixon's done it before, time and time again.
Don't forget he had 2 or 3 pace laps, I should say, as well on that tank of fuel. So Dixon just narrowly in that window as Lundgaard continues to claw at the back of Palou.
And he's chipping away. chipping away, just a couple of hundredths or a tenth of a second every lap. Brought it down to 6/10 now. Smoke coming from the back of Rasmussen's car. I wonder if we'll see a caution coming out.
Who would that help? Scott Dixon.
Scott Dixon. But Palou is coming under some serious pressure. We know how cool he is, how calm and considered behind the wheel. As we do now get the caution. Palou then leads from Lundgaard. Kevin Simpson is third. We are under caution at mid-Ohio. The road to 2026 continues tonight on Fox with the Gold Cup final as the US men's national team takes on rivals Mexico. No easy path, no second chances. Coverage begins tonight at 6 Eastern on Fox. Well, the challenge for everybody in the NTT INDYCAR Series this season is to try and catch Alex Palou with 6 wins in the first 9 races.
First time since 1975, AJ Foyt, one of the greatest of all time to do it. That's the level Palou's operating on right now.
IndyCar Championship standings, 93 to the good over Kyle Kirkwood entering today. As they run right now, 128 to the good. It is Palou building from strength to strength all season.
So where do we sit as we sit under caution? Palou is your race leader from Lundgaard, Simpson, Herta, Siegel, and incredibly, Scott Dixon. Now, Dixon is attempting to do this race on 2 stops, which he might be able to do given that we are back under caution again, and that is exactly what he needed to make his strategy work. Marcus Armstrong and Felix Rosenquist sit 7th and 8th. Alexander Rossi is 9th and Stingray Robb is 10th. Everybody has now stopped, but guys, a number of drivers just jumped in to make an additional stop.
Yeah, we got a bit of a split now on what's going to happen, but listening to Dixon fuel save under yellow, it's incredible. We said he needed 4 laps per stint. He got 4 in the first. He's about to get 4 more here.
That's all he needs.
I think he's done.
That might be all he needs. He would need to stretch it to about lap 62.
Well, the other guy who sits in a really advantageous position right now is his teammate, and I'm not talking about Alex Palou. In the blue, pink and yellow Journey Rewards car, Kyffin Simpson pitted on lap 29, one before Scott Dixon.
But here's something really key. We were just on board with Nolan Siegel. Man, I wish we had an onboard for Alex Palou or even Kyffin Simpson. Nolan Siegel was not saving fuel under this yellow. Scott Dixon was very, very conscientiously saving fuel. You can hear it. And that makes me think guys like McLaughlin, guys like, you see that, grab the clutch, he's coasting in there just trying to save a little bit of fuel. But if those other guys aren't doing that right now, they're not thinking about trying to do it on just one more.
Scott Dixon is the master at making those kind of strategies work, of saving his fuel, of conserving his tires, and making the seemingly impossible possible. He has gone one calendar year without a victory, the 6-time champion, but there is possibly nobody better in this field at making those Hail Marys work.
It is on. It is on for Scott Dixon today. He's done it so many times before.
Now we're on the caution because the car of Christian Rasmussen ground to a halt by the side of the track. We're not sure why, but one man who might have an idea is team boss Ed Carpenter.
Ed, we saw the 21 going slow right after his stop. Any early indications of what his problem was?
Yeah, we had an issue with the redhead didn't get fuel in. We had done a time stop, so didn't see a fuel vent, but it didn't get fuel, so we ran out, and then for some unknown reason, IndyCar refused to tow us in so we could get back in the race, so we're out. They'll give us our car back after the race. I don't quite understand that, so go get an explanation from them. We could have towed it in by now, certainly. So a bit baffled by that, but yeah, we had a failure on our end, but still should be in the race. I don't get it.
Sorry about your day, mate.
That is strange.
It is strange when they towed in the cars of Graham Rahal, at least out of the gravel trap, and Josef Newgarden towed back and fixed and back out on the race. So understand that maybe the 21 is in fact being towed back to the garage right now, so they might get a shot to fuel it back up and fight for some points.
Rinus VeeKay, what a jump up the order he's had. Sits 11th as things stand at the moment. He qualified 26th. Devon DiFrancesco up to 12th. The big losers so far today, Carl Kirkwood mired down in 17th. Louis Foster is 60th after spending so much of this race in the top 6.
And guys, Rinus VeeKay also pit on lap 30, the same as Scott Dixon, so sitting in a great spot on track in 11th, but also from a fuel perspective, if he wants to try to just do this on one more, we're going to come around to the green this time. One more caution makes it really easy for those guys and sets them up beautifully.
Alex Palou versus Christian Lundgaard. It's exactly the same at the front as it was last time we restarted this race. But before we went to caution, Palou was under a huge amount of pressure from Christian Lundgaard. Can Lundgaard maintain that pressure as we roll back to green? It's Palou from Lundgaard, then Simpson, Herta, Siegel, Scott Dixon, your top 6 at Mid-Ohio. And look already at Nolan Siegel trying to go around Colton Herta, making life difficult for him, but Herta, that car placement once again, just perfect to deny the young McLaren driver on the run down now to turn 3. Siegel with an excellent exit on that run down through the kink at 3 and into turn 4 at the bottom of the hill. We ride on board with Nolan Siegel, who thinks better of having a pop at Colton Herta just now.
And it's impressive that Nolan even took a stab at it, because Herta's the only guy in the top 5 with those soft tires on. You would have expected him to be right on the gearbox of Kyffin Simpson. He's there now as the Premas are racing each other.
Yeah, that's Robert Schwartzman having a little go at Devlin DiFrancesco, but that has allowed his teammate, Callum Ilott, to get right tucked up underneath Schwartzman's rear wing. Advantage turns to disadvantage so quickly around this circuit. You find yourself going for a move, being denied, losing the momentum, and then coming into the grasps of the driver behind you. We ride on board with Scott Dixon now, courtesy of PNC Bank. And I just wonder if he can make this work. He got exactly the caution laps he needed at exactly the right time on the soft tyres, Scott Dixon. And that's Nolan Siegel ahead of us as Rinus VeeKay now getting passed by Devon DiFrancesco as Ericsson and McLaughlin bang wheels, and Ericsson runs wide.
That's going to let Stingray Robb get through past the 28 of Ericsson as well. He's going to try to go back on the offensive, get that spot back at least.
And there is DiFrancesco putting that move on Rinus VeeKay. And that's Louis Foster and Jacob Abel Foster up the inside, up the hill into 5, pulls that move off nicely. Downhill trying to follow Pato O'Ward.
And those two were bitter rivals in the Indy Next Championship last year, finishing 1st and 2nd, both graduating up into IndyCar, and it's just picking up where they left off.
Now Scott McLaughlin having a look at Marcus Ericsson's teammate Carl Kirkwood. Kirkwood needs a good result today to continue that excellent vein of form that's seen him rise to 2nd in the championship. It's not looking like it's his day as things stand at the moment, but McLaughlin on the offensive, and now Herta on those soft tyres, pressing on and trying to get the move on Kiffin Simpson for what would be a top 3.
And it's so crucial right now for Herta to get that deal done. We talked about that crossover point where the softs are no longer faster than the hards. That's going to be coming up here in about 10 laps. So Herta, you see him on the button right now. Those green dials, or lights rather, on the wheel. That's the push to pass being active. Simpson using some in defense as well.
These cars heavy with fuel on the hard tires. Your leaders running in the 1:09s. Herta has the pace advantage. He has the softer rubber. He has to make it work now. He needs to get past Simpson and go chasing off after Christian Lundgaard and Alex Palou. There's a nice gap started to form, about 2.5 seconds. So Herta would have some clean air if he can just find a way past the Ganassi driver.
The debate for Colton Herta in the helmet is how hard do you push right now, knowing you need to make your tires last, those soft tires. If you over abuse it in dirty air, as Kiffin Simpson is either behind or off.
Herta's definitely got through because there's no one ahead of him other than the car of Christian Lundgaard.
And now Colton Herta has clean air and pace to burn as
Simpson's down to 6th, guys.
Simpson must have gone off, or maybe Colton forced the issue. He's going to get passed by Marcus Armstrong here.
And Felix Rosenquist, I wonder if he's got an issue, because he's been having such a good day, been driving so consistently and so well, but now is dropping like a stone. Rosenquist will be the next driver to have a go at the young man from the Cayman Islands who started on the 2nd row of the grid today, or will he? Because now Simpson tries to have a go at Armstrong. He's reporting the car being loose. Whatever it is, may have fixed itself, because Simpson back on the offensive, back trying to make his way through and past Marcus Armstrong, who passed him just a few moments ago. Real shame for Kiffin Simpson, down to 7th from 3rd after what had been a very strong opening 38 laps.
It's a pretty aggressive,
make it up. You're doing good.
pretty aggressive block from Marcus Armstrong here. Let's take another look at this. Armstrong is allowed to be proactive. Up.
Ooh,
up.
It's close.
That's right on the margin.
He started to fade just a fraction before and then gave it a more aggressive, move over to the right. But that was close for sure.
Let's listen to some radio from Armstrong.
We believe it will be about a fuel 84 to the end if we went green now. What do you think of that?
That sounds pretty doable.
Copy, that's for one more stop. And we have one more lap, but we'll have more fuel than everyone except Dixon. We'll just keep saving here.
Well, there you heard it. Sounds pretty doable from the driver. In fact, Rosenquist's going to burn fuel right now and try to make a move on Kiffin Simpson, who has already communicated that he is struggling with balance. So if Rosenquist's good, Dixon almost for sure can make it on just one more.
Tries to go round the outside, tucks up on the inside, but Simpson defends and holds his own against the man who is 4th in the championship right now. Rosenquist still finds no way through on the Journey Rewards Honda of Kiffin Simpson. Fascinating times here at Mid-Ohio. Some drivers still on the 3, others opting to roll for the 2-stop strategy. Welcome back to the NTT INDYCAR Series live from mid-Ohio, where Alex Palou leads by 2.6 seconds from Christian Lundgaard. That's right, while we were away, Alex Palou absolutely laid down a marker, getting the lap times back into the 107s. Lundgaard could find no response in the 108s. This in a moment between Santino Ferrucci and Connor Daly. Ferrucci really running Daly out of track. I mean, there's getting your elbows out and there's forcing another driver off track, and that, unfortunately for me, looks like the Jekyll and Hyde nature of Santino Ferrucci.
What happened before that? Well, because that doesn't generally just come out of nowhere. So have to look here. Now Daly giving a little bit of a squeeze there, but then he opened things back up and crossed up Santino Ferrucci. But then Ferrucci just says, you know what? I'm going to send you on a gardening leave.
He sent himself into the garden as well.
Wow. Black hat.
That's reminiscent of last year at the Indy GP. You know, sometimes when Santino tries to overly aggressively defend, it hurts his race as much as it hurts anybody else's.
I mean, we all love hard, aggressive racing, but James, you and I talked about this morning. Look at the top three in the championship with Alex Palou, Kyle Kirkwood, Pato O'Ward, Christian Lundgaard, Scott Dixon. Let's go with the top five. They never drive like that.
You never see those moments of lapse in judgment out of the guys that are running up front. And look, it's a disappointing day right now for AJ Foyt Racing. They're running, you know, right at the back. Ferrucci 19th, Malukas in 28th. This is a team we've been talking about the last few weeks, have been on such a run, and not a great track for them, not a great day, and that's frustration boiling over in a really, really poor way.
Stewarding decision has come in. It is immediate and it is harsh for Santino Ferrucci. Well, he will think it's harsh anyway. 3 places he has to give up for avoidable contact. So Ferrucci will drop down from where he is right now to 18th, back to 21st, thus giving the position back to Connor Daly. Avoidable and unnecessary from Santino Ferrucci, who gives up those positions now, dropping his way back to 21st.
Yeah, oftentimes those penalties can be sort of low, medium, high. On the higher side would be a stop and go or a drive-through penalty, and in this case Ferrucci on the milder side in terms of receiving the penalty, just 3 spots he has to give up. Kevin, what can you tell us about Lundgaard?
Well, while some are thinking about being able to do it on one more stop with some help, I don't see any way Christian Lundgaard can do that. He came in 3 laps earlier than Palou, 4 than Herta. We talk a lot about the drivers as the superstars, but what about the men and women on pit lane going over wall, the crew members? Really interesting story with the inside front changer. His name is Andy Moore. He's from the UK. He's worked in Formula 1 for about 10 years, where your job, and he was crewing an Aston Martin car last year. He was in charge of the wheel gun. That's it. You have one job, the wheel gun, for a second. You don't have to take the tire off. You don't have to put it back on. He said it has been an adjustment over here, doing it all in about 5.5 seconds. And by the way, the family is over here enjoying 4th of July in America, watching this weekend in Mid-Ohio.
Love that. There is Christian Lundgaard, now 3.6 seconds back from Alex Palou. And guys, when Palou needs to turn it on, he just turns it on. He's done it so consistently, not just throughout his career, but in particular this season. You know, we look at the fact that throughout this year, 8 different drivers have led the most laps of the race. Only once has that been Alex Palou. He's just bided his time, taken the opportunity, traditionally in the penultimate or the very final stint, to just put those laps in and take those victories. But today it's another masterclass. He's pushing when you need to.
He's doing it right now, Will. 107.3 that last lap, then 107.4 the last 2 laps for Palou on the harder tire. That's a few tenths quicker than what Colton Herta was doing on that tire in the first stint. James, we talked about this during the week. Palou wins when you're not paying attention. Not in dramatic moments, just like you said, not in dramatic last lap passes or big bold moves. When nobody is seemingly paying attention is where Palou has his head down and he makes hay.
Yeah, the saying slow and steady doesn't really apply here, but fast and steady. He's just so consistent, and what we're seeing here is what we've seen a few times out of him. On that first stint, both Lundgaard and Palou on those softer tires, pretty close, within a second and a half most of that stint. When he gets onto these hards, he is able to get pace out of this compounded tire that no one else is able to do. Even in races like Road America, where it seemed like it was a red race for everyone, Palou was using the hard tires as much as he could.
Guys, he just did the second fastest fastest lap of the race on the harder tire mid-stint, as Christian Rasmussen in the upper left looks to be getting back into that car that ran out of fuel earlier.
Yeah, that's good news to see Christian back, and also, of course, for the team to have the car back. Kevin, what can you tell us about the strategy that we think Alex Palou is going to run today?
Well, I think that lap time is telling me more, but just about 4 laps ago, Barry Wanzer, his strategist, said, keep going fast. We don't think anyone can do it in 2 more. I thought somebody like Scott Dixon could do it in 1 more, but he's saying they don't think anyone. And my first question was, is that possibly code? Is he still saving? But can you tell enough from the lap times that he's going as fast as he can right now?
You look at the stopwatch, it doesn't lie. I got to think that he is pushing because he doesn't think that he personally can do it. He did pit on lap 27, Dixon on lap 30, so he's got a lot more fuel to work with. We know that Rosenquist was told that he thinks he can do it. And guys, the other one who's sitting pretty here is Pato O'Ward, who actually pit on lap 32, came in and topped off. So there's a few drivers that are in a good position.
This is Pato O'Ward. Can this be his day again? The defending race winner. Welcome back to the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, live on Fox, where Alex Palou leads Christian Lundgaard by 5 seconds, and now Lundgaard takes the opportunity to come in and stop. He had a brilliant 7.1 second stop last time around, way quicker than Alex Palou's. Kevin, what's he got for this time? What tires is he going to run?
He's going to use the softs, but he's out of new sets, so this is used. But he did say just a few minutes ago, we're not very happy on the hard compound, so they're going to see if they can make it last. Now, he doesn't have to last to the end, so he really can make this only about a 11-lap stint. That will put him in the window to get it done on one more stop after this.
Yeah, you're going to want to run to about lap 61, 62 for your final stop. He emerges out around Kyle Kirkwood and the car of Jacob Abel just ahead of him. And again, once again, he's out in traffic, which was just not ideal.
Meanwhile, Alex Palou has set fastest lap of the race after fastest lap. He's done it basically the last 5 laps, nobody quicker, every single time. That tells us Palou is in full push. He will do what Lundgaard does, or just did, and have to try to squeeze in an extra stop.
The win right now no longer appears to be the fight between Alex Palou and Christian Lundgaard, but rather the fight between Alex Palou and his teammate Scott Dixon.
That's right.
2 completely different strategies. Palou is pumping in qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap. Conversely, Scott Dixon is having to save, having to conserve to try and make his numbers.
And what you want to look at is right here, that time, 15.5 seconds at the minute. Palou needs to have, well, to come out in front of Dixon, he needs to have about 27, 28 seconds. But he's going to pit, probably not going to have that before he has to pit, but he's going to come out on fresh tires and be able to just push. So he's, at some point, he's going to have to pass Dixon on track, and that's no easy feat, even if Dixie's saving.
And at now, a 106.9 for Alex Palou.
And a 107.9, now a 108.0 for Scott Dixon. So second a lap, we think Alex Palou will pit maybe around lap 57, 58. So he might be able to get to about a 20-second gap on Dixon. He's probably going to have to do it, as you said, James, on the racetrack later in the last stint.
So Dixon's going to pit one more time as well, around lap 60-ish, depending on how much fuel he was able to save. So 1 stop left for Dixon, 1.5 for Palou.
It's one of the things I love the most about IndyCar is these are teammates, and yet the team exists really in name only. They have their own strategists, their own pit crews. It's very much every driver for themselves.
Oh, Palou's off, just dropped wheels. Lower side of the screen, and that's really going to hurt that gap. That was turn 4. He just overcooked it, trying to turn quick laps. A rare mistake.
And you don't see that from Alex Palou all that often. It just shows the extent, the degrees to which he is pushing out there on the track today. And it's over that bump once again. We've seen it all the way through this weekend. Lucky boy.
That could have been so much worse and a much bigger time loss for Palou than what it ended up being.
Palou's last lap was a 107.2. How much of a penalty did he take? About 1.5 seconds. He goes 108.8. That was costly.
Few more laps. Keep using the overtake.
And how much as a driver does a moment like that scare you? When you are pushing and pushing and you know you need to push to make that strategy work and you just overstep the line that little bit.
Well, we celebrate Palou's precision, his surgical-like approach, the mastery of the technique, but it's a great reminder, especially in this challenging, newly profiled turn 4, that the very best can still have a slip-up. And for Palou, it'll frustrate him. He knows intuitively how critical every 100th of a second is right now. He just blew about 1.7 with that bobble.
But it shows the very real threat that's being posed by Scott Dixon right now. He knows he needs to push. He knows he needs to take everything out of every lap if he is to get on terms with his teammate, the master of making the impossible the possible. But again, he takes another lap, trying to claw back some of that time.
Full push.
Full push.
What do you think I've been doing, boss?
So the next driver in the same position as Scott Dixon is Pato O'Ward, who pit on lap 32, actually 2 laps longer, or later rather, than Dixon. So he's going to be able to make it on 1, but he does have to fuel save. And if you look at that gap again, 29 seconds. If Palou pits now, he's still going to come out in front of O'Ward. So O'Ward on for a good result, not necessarily in a fight for the win.
Nolan Siegel into the pits. Jack.
He's actually had such a good stop. He's already on his way. I was actually just chatting to his dad, Mark. What a fantastic performance this young kid is doing. Kyle Moyer added to that timing stand, and you got to say, so far, so good.
Yeah. Kyle Moyer, of course, formerly of Penske. A brilliant signing for Aaron McLaren on the stand as a strategist for Nolan Siegel. Out in 14th spot, so Palou still leads. Herter is second, 13 seconds back. Then it is Scott Dixon. And now in comes your race leader, Alex Palou. Kevin.
And even with the little off, Alex Palou gapped Scott Dixon by about 5 seconds in the last 10 laps. So let's look at it this way. Both are going to have to stop one more time after this. Palou is going to have to continue to run qualifying laps to try to be able to get in front of Dixon, Georgia.
Just told Colton Herta that this was going to be a shorter stop. They take the soft tires off and put new primaries on, which he said he felt comfortable on, being that's what he started on. He's already down and away.
Quick stop from the Andretti Global team with Colton Herta, 6.1, a second faster than what we decided. Ganassi was a little slow leaving the box for Palou.
Well, but I thought that maybe with Colton Herta, they decided we don't need a full tank. We know we're going to have to stop again, so why not lighten the car up, shorten the time on pit lane, and give Colton Herta max speed in the car to go put to good use on the track.
Herta having to defend massively from Kyle Kirkwood on that run down into turn 2. Lundgaard ahead of Felix, it's Pato O'Ward, my apologies, ahead of Felix Rosenquist. And I think Kyle Kirkwood did get ahead of Colton Herta, critically for Herta's race. His teammate is ahead. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio, riding on board with Nolan Siegel. Car ahead of us is that of Marcus Armstrong. There's an investigation going on into something which happened a little while ago between these two drivers. We're seeing this for the first time. Siegel goes to defend, and again, Armstrong, not very late, but quite late with the defense.
Yeah, you almost got to look earlier than that. It's tougher from Nolan's onboard, to be honest, to see who really moved first. The outside shot is pretty marginal on Armstrong's part.
It is, and it reminds me a little bit of what we saw earlier with Armstrong and that didn't lead to a penalty. I mean, listen, Armstrong raised by wolves through the European ladder system, the lower formulas. In F2, F3 over there, no big deal. You see that on any Sunday. In IndyCar, if you move in reaction to, absolutely going to be a penalty. The question is, how severe? How about the left front for Scott Dixon? That thing looks like grandma's quilt or something. It is anything but smooth.
And then the wheel spin coming off of two there. These tires are not pretty right now. But I was just going to say, lap 61, he's in the window, and you heard the call. He's only got to last a few more corners on this set. Then he'll get a fresh set, I assume, of the hards to make it to the end.
And here's the thing, 28 laps, that is the ultimate, the optimum of what we saw last year. Scott Dixon doing an utterly phenomenal job. He leads this race. His teammate Kiffin Simpson behind, also going for the two-stop strategy. Alex Palou didn't believe that it was possible. His team didn't believe that it was possible to do the two stops. I'm hearing he has been told. The team now believe, yes, actually, two stops is possible for Scott, and it's possible for Kiffin, and now in comes Scott Dixon.
And I think Kiffin Simpson is following. Great job from Kiffin Simpson. Jack.
Well, honestly, both of these pit stops happening almost in the same time. Let's go to Kiffin Simpson quick. He's going to put on a new set of reds. But if there was ever a guy who can make fuel, and he's won here 5 times, it's Scott Dixon. Oh no, it's Kiffin stalled.
Kiffin Simpson stalls on pit lane. And a brilliant weekend, and he gets so close to VK's team. That was unreal. We're talking millimeters.
I mean,
I think he hit his toes, man. That was.
I think he gave him a pedicure. I mean, it was a graze at best, but oh my goodness, I was cringing at the right rear tire changer for VK. Watch the toes here. Woo!
He did just get his toes.
But how do you avoid it?
Didn't even flinch.
No room for Kiffin Simpson to get out of there. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon is struggling to accelerate on that uphill section of pit lane as he was leaving his box, so we'll have to watch the gap with Alex Palou on the racetrack.
Nicholas Don, MVP on the 15 crew. That's the outside rear tire changer. Didn't even flinch as his toes were getting run over by 1,800 pounds of IndyCar.
Just wait until the adrenaline wears off. And it has now worn off.
Much more than a graze there. Boy, what a soldier to stay after the job as Pato O'Ward comes in for his final stop.
Fresh set of softs for the number 5. Good wing adjustment. Oh, they got to go back up. A problem on the left rear. Not a quick stop for the 5 crew. Rare mistake out of that group.
Does he get out ahead of Kiffin Simpson?
I think Simpson's coming through turn 1 right now.
Ferrucci in for hards, and there is Simpson. The move on Pato O'Ward. Tires up to temperature. Stingray Rob having a look as well, but O'Ward will hold that position. As around the outside, Callum Ilott takes a little look. Now to the right. No way through just yet. Stingray Rob defending from Callum Ilott, but Ilott will have the inside line on the run into 4. And that's a position gain for the Prema driver.
Okay, so last set of stops almost complete here, but Alex Palou, we think, is still going to have to pit again. We'll be watching this gap right here. 21 seconds and growing. That's what Palou needs to do. He needs to put time on his teammate, Scott Dixon.
And the important thing for Palou is right now he has a full back straight of clear track in front of him. Nothing is holding him back as he tries to increase the gap to this guy right here, PNC Bank on board. Scott Dixon, he's in a little bit more of a mess because he's got 2 cars right behind him pushing him while he's trying to save fuel.
Both Palou and Dixon on the same tire, the harder black tire. Lundgaard and Herta will also have to pit, but it's teammate versus teammate with Chip Ganassi Racing.
Palou at the moment over a second faster a lap than his teammate Scott Dixon. Needs over 25 seconds if he wants to leave his final stop still in the lead. What magic has Barry Wanzer worked out today? Welcome back to the NTT IndyCar Series live from mid-Ohio. This a moment in the pit lane just a few laps ago. Thumbs up though, all okay.
Nico Dom giving the A-OK. Again, got his foot hit, didn't flinch, finished the stop, got over the wall, and then got tended to.
Alex Palou still leads this race. The fight now is with his teammate Scott Dixon. The gap between them now at over 25 seconds. It's 25.3, but Palou is in the danger zone. If a caution comes out now, his day is ruined. Does he take the opportunity with a 25 second gap to come now?
Might come now with Stingray Robb coming out of the pits. We'll have to see how much trouble Stingray gives Alex Palou here as Stingray's on cold tires exiting. But this could be the call from Barry Wanzer. They'd probably like more of a buffer, James, but if they're stuck behind Robb, they'll duck in.
Look, at the pace he's running, 3 more laps, he could come out in front of Dixon. But like you say, if a yellow happens now, he's totally hosed. Kevin, what are they saying down in the 10th stand?
Well, here's what I think. I think they want to get another second or so on Dixon because they don't want to have to pass their teammate on track. They want to come out and beat Dixon on the blend coming out. There's no talk of pitting. I think they're maybe within a couple of laps, but I think he'll have the gap he needs by then.
Kevin, he just lost about 2 seconds on this lap. He was not able to get by Stingray Robb. So those precious seconds were just given up here, and he's still stuck behind Stingray for another lap. This is a disaster for Palou right now, not what he needs.
Every lap he has to spend out on track is another lap in that danger zone. If that caution comes out, it's day over for Alex Palou, but he makes the move, puts it on Stingray Robb coming down up there into turn 2. Nicely done.
And the other thing is that Palou just had to burn about 12 seconds of push to pass to make this pass on Stingray. Palou would have loved to save push to pass for a battle with Dixon. That gap still 25 seconds.
Alex Palou then still with it all to do, still having to put in those qualifying style laps in an effort to extend his lead and emerge with the lead still intact over Scott Dixon.
And look, as a driver, it's the most fun position to be in as we take a look at Kiffin Simpson getting that drive-through penalty for hitting the crew. That's a fair move right there. But this is the position you want to be in, T-Bell. You've got all the fuel you need, clear racetrack in front of you, the team saying quality laps to build that gap. Conversely, Dixon having to be so disciplined, so patient with how he's driving that race car. Nowhere near as much fun, but it could work.
Yeah, fun for the driver, but huge pressure on the pit crew right now as the number 10 team crew contemplates the last pit stop, which has to go bang on perfect to beat Scott Dixon. And last year, it was a bobble for this team on pit lane that gave the win to Pato O'Ward.
The pit stop last year was good, but O'Ward was Palou, was so slow to get away, so slow, just sat there achingly. And as he came out, Pato had already made his way past.
You look at crew chief Ricky Davis. I mean, you talk about pros on the pit wall. Davis and team have been getting it done for years now for Alex Palou. They should be confident, but they should also remember what happened last year. It'll be fascinating to see how efficient they can be under pressure.
Palou relentless at the moment in the 1 minute 7.5s.
So there's that comparison, and you see lap 68 when he had to get around Stingray Robb, 1:08.2, 0.2 of a second slower than what Dixon managed. So Dixon right now keeping it just on that bubble. He needs another 2-3 seconds to be comfortable, and I use that term lightly.
But let's not forget, there's 24 other cars racing right now. They can have contact, they can cause a full course caution, and it would be over for Palou. I don't know why he's risking it. I would come in right now.
Dixon starts the 71st lap. He's now down at 26 seconds in arrears from the race leader and his teammate Alex Palou. Is 26 enough? Would 27 be enough? At what point is it enough for Alex Palou?
Yes, somewhere in that range.
there.
It's hard to know exactly because, as Townsend says, the pit stop has to go perfectly. But, you know, up top in the number 9, you're riding on board with a guy that's won this race 6 times. He knows how to get it done here at Mid-Ohio.
Now, Palou has been on push to pass this lap. This tells me this could be the lap that he comes in. He has 76 seconds remaining. Dixon, 62, so they're pretty close here.
Kevin.
So let's talk to somebody that's dealt with this pressure before. Ricky Davis is the crew chief for the 10 team, and he's gone over the wall for 20, 25 years. Not over the wall, but what's this pressure like? You could win the race with this pit stop.
This is the pressure you want. I mean, you work on this every day that we do pit stop, right? And these guys they're ready. They're just stay poised, right? You know it's going to be a quick stop, so you just stay as comfortable as you can and do what you know to do.
How much does this pit location help you with the easy outs?
Oh, it's mega. It's so mega. It's the greatest pits we could have, really.
How long do they come out? We're starting to see some movement in the pit box here.
Lundgaard jumps into the pits.
And that's the call for Alex Palou to come to the box. What an opportunity to talk to Ricky Davis before the last play of the game as Alexander Rossi muscling his way past Christian Lundgaard there.
What I loved about that is he said, this is what we want. This is what we look for. I love that mentality out of Ricky Davis in the 10 crew.
Pressure is a privilege. That's the attitude.
This is what they prepare for. We keep our eyes peeled for the race leader, and he comes into the box now. Kevin Lee will be waiting for him.
Terrence Swanson is waving his arm. He is directing him in. He's the outside front changer. He would make any wing adjustment that is needed. He also would direct traffic, more critical in a yellow flag stop with a lot of traffic. It is primary, hard compound to hard compound. No bobbles on the front or the rear. He's away. Now where's he going to come out in relation to Scott Dixon?
That's a perfect stop for Alex Palou. Dixon through the final corner and down the start-finish stretch into 1. He will have a pace advantage. His tyres will be up to temperature. Palou, though, will have the track advantage. Palou then out ahead of his teammate Scott Dixon, but can Dixon make the warmer tyres work?
It's about 2 seconds the gap. Palou on cold tyres, so the gap will be closer to a second by the end of this lap. But boy, Palou's got to like the view from where he's sitting right now. Nobody in front of him, his teammate behind him, and he just has to hit his marks here.
Pit stop executed perfectly. This was always the play. This was always the plan, and Palou has executed it exactly as the team had hoped. He maintains his advantage over Scott Dixon. This will be the battle for the win between the Ganassi teammates. Welcome back to mid-Ohio, where Alex Palou is now leading Scott Dixon by just about 1.5 seconds. Here is your Pennzoil moment of the race, and it was the defining moment for Alex Palou. That third stop, absolutely perfect, giving him the track advantage and maintaining the lead over his teammate Scott Dixon. Wonderful job from the 10 crew. But Dixon is not falling back. Palou is not pulling away. It remains 1.7 seconds, Alex Palou and Scott Dixon, with Marcus Armstrong third, Nolan Siegel fourth, then Alexander Rossi and Christian Lundgaard.
At this point, he doesn't have to push too hard. He can really control the pace from inside the 10 car, take care of those Firestones. In case we do have a yellow and you need to get into a restart situation and go wheel to wheel, you've got a little bit better rubber under the car.
Push to pass remaining there, 57 for Palou, 51 for Dixon. Now cars that we think will still make one more stop, Armstrong, Siegel, Alexander Rossi, who's in the pits right now. So that will move Christian Lundgaard back up into podium position once Armstrong and Siegel pit.
His teammate Pato O'Ward just behind him. They've played this pretty much the same way as the Ganassi drivers have played this. O'Ward pitting 1 lap after Scott Dixon, Lundgaard pitting 1 lap before Alex Palou.
Understand some frustration from Colton Herta on his last stop. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, it's dropped before the left front's done.
Yeah, frustration coming out of Colton Herta there.
Now, I was doing the math on where Colton was going to emerge based on the gaps when he was leading when he pit, and he didn't lose any track position for that bobble.
But how many times has that happened to Colton Herta this year? You go back to the first 4 races of the season, he had the pace for race wins, and it was over and over again, one thing after another, and now we're at the halfway point, still struggling with the choreography there on pit lane. You compare that to a Palou or a Dixon pit stop, you just don't see that happen very often, if ever, on that team.
And it was the one thing that Colton said that the team needed to have worked on over the winter, was just eradicating those kind of mistakes, because he came so close to being able to fight Palou for the title last year, coming home second ultimately in the championship. He wanted to make those moves. He wanted to be contending for title honors this year, but those mistakes, they haven't been eradicated. They have crept in from the very start.
Now I'm guessing he'll net out about a 5th place once Siegel pits, Armstrong pits, Eilert still has to pit in front of him as well. So he'll pick up a few spots and get into the top 5, which is decent result. But this team's had a lot of pace this weekend. His teammates Kyle Kirkwood right now running in 10th. He'll pick up a few spots. Ericsson down in 13th. It wasn't quite the team performance I think we were expecting this weekend.
No, disappointing ultimately for Andretti.
So just looking up the road for Alex Palou, this is the part in the race where we look for traffic at Mid-Ohio that might interfere with the battle for the lead, but boy, it's nothing but clean air for Alex Palou with 12 to go.
Clean track ahead, rarefied air for the championship leader. He leads by 2.5 seconds.
You know, MotoGP races, there's just not enough of them.
No, there's not.
So then you start dipping into F1 a little bit.
Yeah.
Now there's not enough F1 races, so I start dipping into Indy. You watching Indy?
No, I can't.
Oh, Indy's
you're
great.
in?
Oh.
Well, next weekend on Fox, the IndyCar Series pulls into Iowa for 2 races in 2 days. Alex Palou looks to continue his historic season, but the question is, can anyone catch the fastest man on the planet? The IndyCar race weekend, Saturday at 5 Eastern, and next Sunday at 1 on Fox.
As tough as the season's been for Josef Newgarden, boy, you'd like to think Newgarden would at least pick off 1 win in Iowa next weekend. He could easily double up, but today, all about this guy once again.
Well, maybe now that he knows that Brad Pitt's watching, it'll motivate him a little extra to get that W.
Maybe.
I don't think Josef Newgarden needs any motivation to go win IndyCar races.
No, I would agree with that.
And I'll tell you what, this guy right here, Alex Palou, 28-year-old from Spain, 3-time champion, back-to-back defending champion. This guy is hyper-motivating the rest of this field to figure out how to beat him. You got to think Lundgaard's on that same strategy, 5.7 seconds down the road. It's incredible the performance that he's pulling.
It is. Speaking of Christian Lundgaard, I think he might have pace to give Scott Dixon some trouble down the stretch. Kevin, what can you tell us, though, about Alex Palou?
Well, beyond the fact that he's really, really good. Remember, this is where the first time he drove an IndyCar was in 2019. He was driving in Japan Super Formula, got an opportunity to test here, and he thought that was just going to be it. He didn't think there was much of a chance to race in IndyCar, and it was the day after this race, and the track is a bit dirty as the campers are leaving and so forth, but he didn't know that, and he was 8 seconds off the pace of what the times were the day before, and he thought, uh-oh, I'm out of my element. I'm never going to be able to make it, but the track cleaned up. He started going quick, so much so that Dale Coyne hired him for the next season, and now he's on the brink of winning 7 times in a season, barely past the midpoint. No one's won that many in a full season since 2007. To Georgia.
Well, Kevin, my honorable mention for this race is Felix Rosenqvist. He started 15th, up to 7th right now, and he's running the Ozzy Osbourne livery. Ozzy and Black Sabbath performing for the last time in Birmingham, England, just this weekend. So a special livery for them. It's also a home race for Meyer Shank Racing. And Mike Shank told me that Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course is where it all started to him. He started coming here at 7 years old. Now, fast forward all these years, they have over 150 guests here. Felix Rosenqvist also catching so much momentum, a podium in Road America, and he's going to cap this race off if all goes well with 7 laps to go in the top 10 as well. Jack.
My star driver of the day right now is actually Rinus VeeKay. He started 26th. He's found himself all the way up in 9. Everyone knows that Dale Coyne can just sometimes find these really master strokes when it comes to strategy. And we're going to fingers crossed, one, that Nico Don, the pit crew member, is okay, but also for these final 6 laps, this 18 car can stay in the top 10.
It's a great point, Jack. He finds himself ahead of the two drivers who started on the second row of the grid, Kiffin Simpson and Nolan Siegel, who are still battling over track position with 6 laps to go here in mid-Ohio. It is Alex Palou from Scott Dixon. Christian Lundgaard is about 2.7 seconds behind Scott Dixon and pulling him in at about half a second a lap.
Yeah, I think Christian Lundgaard's going to have an opportunity to compete for second place with Scott Dixon. Lundgaard has been about that half second quicker the last few laps. Last lap, Lundgaard a 107.0 to Dixon's 107.7. So that's the kind of pace he needs.
Problem for Palou. He's gone slowly, and Scott Dixon has gone past him.
Does he have a mechanical problem? Did he drop a wheel? He seems to be back up to pace, Townsend.
I don't know if he's been off the track. I don't know if he's had a mechanical problem. But something has gone wrong for Alex Palou. He has lost the lead of this race to his teammate Scott Dixon, who is the new race leader.
He bobbled once before, and we'll have to see if he put it off the racetrack again. Tricky section right here, and he gets a little loose and he gets wide. A mistake from Palou again, and this time it will cost him.
An unforced error while leading a race comfortably from the 3-time champ. I don't think we've ever seen it.
Not one, James, but 2 that we've seen from him today. Alex Palou pushing to the max, making the mistake, losing the lead. That is so uncharacteristic.
Guys, the pass has happened, but the race is not over. You've got 5 laps to go. We know Dixon's making a big number, and we already said that Palou is probably taking care of his tires in case he needed them later. Guys, he needs them now.
All of a sudden, something that seemed to be a foregone conclusion, Palou with another win, is anything but. This will be a shootout over 4 more laps between teammates and a hard-charging and closing Christian Lundgaard. Dixon is thinking, you got to be kidding me. You handed me the lead. You're going to have to steal it from my hands now.
It has been a calendar year since Scott Dixon has won a race in the NTT INDYCAR Series. The 6-time champion is one of the toughest drivers to beat. He is not going to hand this thing to Alex Palou on a silver platter. He is going to have to come and take it away from his teammate. Dixon exits down the back stretch. Palou will be furious with himself, kicking himself for the 2 mistakes that he's made in today's race, but particularly for that last one that took him not just off the track, but denied him the lead and handed it back to his teammate.
And this is something that we've seen from the very best drivers in the history of racing worldwide. Ayrton Senna leading at Monaco. I think of Paul Tracy with a 2-lap lead and crashing when they told him to just kind of slow down and take it easy. Alex Palou, the best IndyCar driver maybe we've ever seen, making a simple mistake at a critical time, and now he's going up against the 6-time champ and his teammate to try to redeem the error.
Look at the body language of that 10 car though. He looks aggressive and fighty.
They're almost dead even on push to pass. 27 for Dixon, 29 for Palou as he's using it now. He's trying to get a good run out of the keyhole here. This could be it. Goes wide, Townsend, loses some ground.
Nobody is better at managing and moving dirty air around for a chasing competitor than Scott Dixon. He is a poker player of the highest order in terms of understanding exactly where to place his race car to make life difficult for Palou and make him use up whatever tire he has left.
Scott Dixon making his car wide. He is wily, he is experienced, and he's looking for a win for the first time this year. Sit on board looking back at Alex Palou. We've said throughout this season the one thing that no driver in this championship wants is to look in their rear-view mirrors and to see Alex Palou. Normally it's in that yellow and red DHL Honda, but I kind of think that in that sleek Open AI he looks like a stealth fighter, flying around this track trying to catch Scott Dixon.
I don't know that Christian Lundgaard will be close enough to pounce, but if there's any issue between these two, he'll be right there.
Oh!
Look at Palou running the low line through the keyhole.
Tight line through 2 on the run down through 3 and into 4. Does he have the pace? Dixon on the push to pass in order to try to extend and get the gap so Palou won't have a chance into the braking zone.
Dixon went wide so that he could square off the exit and get that awesome launch off of turn 2, guys. That was a brilliant move from Scott Dixon.
And he tricked Palou into thinking there was clean air low, and then he closed it down. He shut it down at the exit, and that might be the moment.
Dixon using all of his experience, all of his knowledge and his acumen to keep the championship leader and the driver of the moment at bay. These two know each other so well as Palou now is soaring away at the wheel as he gets into the dirty air. White flag, one lap to go at Mid-Ohio. Alex Palou is going to put it all on the line to take the win away and deny his teammate Scott Dixon. Look how close he is. Look how tight they're getting on the run down the 2.
And here they come to the keyhole. What does Dixon do this time? He goes low and Palou goes high.
Running down the hill one more time. Dixon on the button, Palou on the button. Probably one really good opportunity for a pass remains, and it's on the run down into this corner. There is no way through for Alex Palou unless Dixon now makes a mistake. But he is too wily, he is too experienced. Right from the start of this race, Dixon said, we're going to two-stop it. We're going to throw the Hail Mary. We're going to make the impossible possible. We're going to make the strategy work. Alex Palou has made an uncharacteristic mistake and has handed the victory to Scott Dixon, but Dixon had to make this work. It's a 21st straight season with a victory for Scott Dixon. What a brilliant win. And boy, he had to work for that. He had to make the strategy, the fuel number, had to make it all work. And we have a new winner in 2025. And it is the 6-time champion, one of the greatest to ever race in IndyCar. It was only a matter of time until Scott Dixon found his way back to the top step of the podium.
Wife Emma, kids.
Scott Dixon bombs here all the way from Auckland, New Zealand this weekend. That's pretty incredible to see her boy do it once again. Kids, as you say.
Guys, 7 wins at this racetrack. The names of drivers that have won 7 times at a single track in the IndyCar reads like a who's who of the greatest ever. Foyt, Mario Andretti, Bobby Unser, Roger Ward, Michael Andretti, and now Scott Dixon.
The consistent brilliance year on year of this man. You think about that. 21 years. He has won a race every single one of those 21 years.
And as much as we celebrate Palou's talents, as we should, he's been unbelievable. Today was about experience. Experience on how to get the fuel, experience about how to move the dirty air around. Alex Palou learned a few things today from the master, who's still capable of doing it after all these years.
I'll think, you know, I would imagine Alex Palou will tell you he's learned an awful lot from Scott Dixon over their tenure as teammates. But as you say, Townsend, he got an extra lesson today, one he hadn't seen from Dixon before.
A brilliant drive. How does he do it? How does he make those numbers? No one can do what Scott Dixon does.
No one's participated in more IndyCar races than Scott Dixon. No one has done more consecutive races than Scott Dixon. No one has won for more consecutive seasons than Scott Dixon. If there was a Mount Rushmore of IndyCar greats, there's no doubt he'd be up there.
And the amazing thing about Scott Dixon is it's all all cattle, very little hat from the cowboy here. He is all about substance, a man of few words. You don't see him in the spotlight very much unless he has to be there, but he's in the spotlight right now.
And deservedly so. Dixon, Palou, Lundgaard came home in 3rd place for McLaren, 2 seconds behind Palou and Dixon. You've got to say a great run in the end from the McLaren driver to take that 3rd place. but Scott Dixon returns to the top of the podium.
Keep your head up, man. It's all good. Really? When you got it, right?
The message to Alex to keep your head up.
Keep smiling, we are.
Gary Wanzer says keep smiling. But he'll be kicking himself. He knows that that was his for the taking. But this is the man on victory lane. Kevin Lee is standing by with Scott Dixon.
You have a lot of experience this. Only A.J. Foyt has won more races. This is number 59. But how many have maybe seemed this improbable?
It was definitely a tough race. You know, full credit to everybody at Chukanassi Racing. 1-2 win. I'm not sure where you know, Kevin was, but I'm sure he was right there as well. We had fantastic cars. It was my fault in qualifying.
What about that?
Thanks. That was cool. But just so much fun, you know, to try and pull off what we did and, you know, deal with what we had was fantastic. They forgot to take the front wing out on the last stop, man, so I just had to look at the corner and the car was going to turn. I was just hoping the rear tires were going to hold on, but awesome to have all the family here today, which is fantastic. They drove up this morning, so good to see Emma, and obviously I think that's Kit's first win, so that's at the track is pretty cool. So thank you again to everybody in PNC. Honda, obviously, fantastic fuel mileage there, man. It was such a joy to drive.
And your mom is also here. That's pretty cool.
She's been here for a couple of weeks, so finally it paid off for her.
Yeah, she said that you owed her a win. So after you get by Palou, was there any more fuel save, or were you where you could full go? I think a lot of people thought he might still have a chance at you.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be tough just because it's hard in the wake. You know, we still had to save fuel all the way to the end, so it was definitely very tight. But yeah, you know, I didn't see what happened. I saw that he went off in turn 9, so we got a little bit lucky with that. But kudos to everybody on the 10, the 9, and the 8. So it was a tremendous weekend for us all, man.
Big weekend for the Dixon family. Kid is here, Tilly is here, Emma, his mom Glennis. What a day for Scott Dixon, winning for a 21st consecutive time to keep that season streak alive.
Alex Palou, such an uncharacteristic and rare mistake. I've got to ask, just what happened in turn 9?
I don't know, man. Just a stupid mistake, honestly. Mistake by my part. The car was amazing all weekend, all race. Everybody in the 10 car did an amazing job on pit stops and strategy. Like, we were running really good, but just lost it a little bit on entry, and then kind of couldn't really get power going on. So yeah, man, nobody to blame but me. Just got a big wide on entry and lost it completely. So it sucks. It sucks. It hurts a lot. Obviously, it's still a good day, but yeah, it hurts to lose it like that. So yeah. Anyway, at least we got it in the team. So they can feel proud about their work, but yeah, big mistake.
A bad mistake maybe, but still P2. Congrats, champ.
Thank you.
It's not often that anybody finishes ahead or gets to the Advanced Auto Parts checkered flag before Alex Palou, but his teammate Scott Dixon has done so today, his first victory of the year. Let's take a look at the Advanced Auto Parts checkered flag moments. And of course, what else could it be? Alex Palou running wide, under pressure to extend his lead. Scott Dixon making his way past and running all the way to the flag. There's your top three, and the celebrations continue for Scott Dixon. And Georgia is standing by with the man who came home third.
Christian Lundgaard back on the podium. He's going to round out your top three. That was an intense race with strategy, with heat, you name it. What were your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I think this morning we were really good on trying to see if we could get the fuel number for a two-stop, and obviously there's a big debate going into the race if that's what we're going to do. And I think once you're out there, you're not really clear on who's on what strategy. And I will honestly say there was at some point I didn't even know that Pato was on that two-stop. So, but yeah, I mean, we got back on the podium, so we're happy.
How good does that water taste? Because I know that was a physical one.
Yeah, I don't drive with a cool suit. I don't drive with a drink bottle, so I need a lot before and I need a lot now.
Thanks, Christian. Great job.
Back on the podium for the first time since Barber for Christian Lundgaard. First time back on the podium for Scott Dixon since St. Pete. Your winners so far this season then: 6 for Palou, 3 for Kirkwood, 1 for Scott Dixon. And time for our podium.
Congratulations, Christian! Now we move on to our second place finisher. Let's hear it for Alex Palou! And back to present our second place trophy is Paul Dentinger. Congratulations, Alex! And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's welcome our Honda Indy 200 in Mid-Ohio, presented by the all-new 2026 Passport race winner, Scott Dixon! And here to present the winner's trophy is once again Paul Dentinger.
Well, it's great to see Scott Dixon back on the top step of the podium. Thoroughly deserved and not before time. Let's take a look at the results. The full classification for this race, won by Scott Dixon with Alex Palou second and Christian Lundgaard third. Colton Herter did bring it home fourth in the end from Pato O'Ward, who also attempted the two-stop. Rosenquist sixth from his teammate Marcus Ericsson seventh. Carl Kirkwood losing a place from where he started and finishing eighth. Renus VK with one of the drives of the day, 26th to 9th. And Kiffin Simpson bringing it home 10th.
Yeah, going 11th through 20th here. A couple of kind of gritty drives. Marcus Ericsson started off with a crash this weekend, came back to finish 12th. Louis Foster there in 14th. But frankly, all Hondas dominating in the top, 2, 8 out of the top 10 today, and it's been all Hondas with the win this season.
And when you look at the top 10 in the championship, you will notice one thing: there is only one Penske driver now in the top 10 in the championship standings.
23rd, the best Penske. 26th and 27th. That was a day to forget for the captain's squad.
But a day to remember for Scott Dixon and Ganassi. It's a 1-2 for them. It is another win in an incredible career for Scott Dixon. Tonight on Fox, the Gold Cup final as the U.S. men's national team takes on rivals Mexico. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern, and our next IndyCar races are at Iowa on the doubleheader, Saturday at 5 Eastern and Sunday at 1 Eastern. We hope you will join us then. Scott Dixon is your winner in Mid-Ohio. We'll see you in a few days' time in Iowa.
The official INDYCAR app, powered by NTT Data, puts the pulse-pounding action of INDYCAR right at your fingertips. Never miss a lap with the latest news, highlights, and live race coverage. Track every move with real-time leaderboards, interactive maps, onboard cameras, and driver radio. Your all-access pass to every race, every moment, every day. Download the official INDYCAR app now.